When I was 15, my grandmother took my brother and I on a trip to Europe. First, we spent a week in Paris with a former exchange student. Then we joined a tour of Italy. As we were traveling from Paris to Florence, our first stop on the tour, my grandmother noticed that I was wearing my Magen David. And she said to me, "Dalia, I think you should take your Jewish star off for the tour." I asked her why. She said, "We're going on a tour of Italy. It's a very Catholic country, and the people on the tour might be prejudiced against Jews." With my 15-year-old sense of righteousness, I responded, "Well, if they aren't going to like me because I'm Jewish, I'd rather know on the first day than after I might already respect them." Sensing my confidence and probably a bit of naivete in who I was, she let me keep it on. We ended up having a great time and no problems. But looking back, I understand her fear in a very different way. As a 15-year-old coming from a relatively Jewish neighborhood, I had not experienced anti-Semitism firsthand. I could not fathom that somebody in today's world would hate me simply because I was Jewish. But for my grandmother, who had watched the horrors of World War II, her feelings towards public Judaism, especially in Italy, were very different. It wasn't that she wasn't proud of her Judaism. It was that her fear was making it difficult for her to feel safe being her full self. This week, the ancient Israelites were held back by their own fear. Tomorrow, we will read about the 12 scouts who were sent into Israel to scope out the land. They were asked to see what kind of country it is. Are the people who dwell there strong or weak, few or many? Is the country in which they dwell good or bad? Are the towns they live in open or fortified? Is the soil rich or poor? Is it wooded or not? 40 days later, they returned carrying a huge branch from one of the grapevines. But 10 of the 12 spies proclaim that the land is indeed beautiful and bountiful, but it is inhabited by giants that we can never overcome. Caleb, later joined by Joshua, acknowledged that while the men in the land are great and powerful, and the battle will surely be tough, he believes that we are capable of defeating the people, especially with God on our side. But the people, of course, choose to give in to their fear, and they cry out in fear and frustration, "If only we had died in Egypt! If only we might die in this wilderness! Why is Adonai taking us to a land to fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be carried off. It would be better for us to go back to Egypt. Let us head back to Egypt." For giving in to their fear and not having enough faith in God, God declares that this generation will not be given the gift of entering the promised land. But they will instead be doomed to wander the desert until they have died off, only allowing their children and grandchildren to enter the promised land. Our scholars ask, why such a harsh punishment for understandable fear? The answer we're given is that it wasn't that they were afraid, but that they allowed their fear to make them change course. In other words, it was a lack of bravery that sealed their fate. Bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is being afraid and moving forward in spite of it. The truth of the matter is the battles were tough. The Israelites did lose many people. And when we read in the book of Joshua, when they finally enter the promised land, we read about the battles and the hardships. So their fear wasn't unfounded. But what angered God was their inability to live out their lives in the face of the fear. How very relevant for today's times. How many of us have ever felt afraid to proudly live our lives authentically? How many of us have to hold something back, worried that if people knew, they might view us differently? This month, we celebrate love in all of its beautiful forms with Pride Month. While this month specifically honors and celebrates LGBTQIA love and culture, the word chosen by its founders was not LGBTQ month or even gay power. It was pride. Why is the word pride used to label this month? The history of the term actually goes back to the original parade that was planned to honor the Stonewall riots. In 1969, the police raided the Stonewall Inn, a bar known to be very gay-friendly. This raid led to several days of riots, which are considered to be the turning point in the gay rights movement. Several months later, there was a decision to hold a parade to honor and remember the raid, the riots, and the forward motion that the movement was taking. As the organizers were planning the parade, there was talk about what this should be called. L. Craig Schoonmaker argued for it being called Pride. He argued there is very little chance for people in this world to have power. People did not have power then. Even now, we only have some. But anyone can have pride in themselves, and that would make them happier as people and produce the movement likely to produce change. Schoonmaker was not referring to pridefulness as an overinflated vision of self, but rather a healthy self-esteem, a sense that one should be proud of who they are despite the hardships that they may face because of it. Calling it pride, and indeed having pride in themselves, was and often continues to be an act of bravery. As we have sadly seen, there are people who wish us harm, simply for who we are, be it our Jewishness, our gender expression, our sexuality, the color of our skin. There will always be people who judge us before they bother to get to know us. And in some cases, these people do wish us harm. Bravery isn't ignoring them and not being afraid to live our lives. It's acknowledging the real fear, but being willing to live our truth despite those fears and dangers. Being proud of who we truly are and not letting other people's prejudices dictate our sense of self or our expression of self. We allow our bravery to take precedence over our fear. Unlike the ancient Israelites who could not move past their fear, we must allow the light of truth to outshine the darkness of fear. This month, and especially tonight, we celebrate Pride. We take time to show our support for our LGBTQIA friends, neighbors, loved ones, and community members. But we must remember why this month is called Pride, to reinforce the value to those in the queer community that they should take pride in who they are, to remind them that they are seen, loved, and valued for exactly who they are. No matter who tries to shout them down, invalidate their truths, or put roadblocks in their way to living their full authentic selves, they too, as all of us are holy images of God. They have the right and even the responsibility to live their lives authentically and proudly. Shabbat Shalom.